Today, I am so honored to have this special guest. I'm going to allow her to introduce herself. I have so many different points that looking at her bio and the manufacturing and all the different industries she's worked on. So I'm going to turn it over to you, let you introduce yourself a little bit, and then I have a lot of questions and a lot of discussions to go
Well,
down all the rabbit holes.
I'm looking forward to that rabbit hole. Thank you, Emily. My name is Aneesa Muthana. I am the CEO and co-owner of Pioneer Service, and I'm also the CEO and co-owner of M&M Quality Grinding out here in Hotchkiss, Illinois.
So, out of the two companies, do you have a favorite?
No, not anymore. I
Not
did.
anymore.
So one is the company that when I was 11 years old, M&M Quality Grinding. My parents opened up a machine shop. I was 11 years old and I started running machines at 13. I had temper tantrums between 11 and 13 because I wanted to be just like my brothers and I wanted to run machines. But I learned the ins and outs of running a manufacturing company hands-on with my family. And those are one of the best memories of my life. And on top of that, I left in 93 and came back in 2021. So I left because women were non-existent and it was very hard to be taken seriously with my brothers in the room. So I had to find my own space and I never thought I would come back, to be completely frank. My father wanted to retire and my mother and my brothers asked me to return. And so I did, under the condition that I would run things and I don't want to jeopardize my relationship with my brothers or my mother, because family businesses and the dynamics with that is extremely challenging. And coming back to it, I'm taking on the legacy of my parents. And every time we meet and we're talking about marketing or strategy or what we need to do, and that comes up because that's the cornerstone of who I am is my parents, and they were the ones that paved the way for me. So it's such an honor to lead that company after, since 1981. And then Pioneer Service is my baby. I left there in 93 and I've been running it and been CEO ever since. So that's 31 years of my life. So that, how can I not love that company? So now I have them under one roof. I had them separately, but I moved them under one roof back in August of 2023. And so there's still two separate entities. My partners here are different than my partners at M&M. I'm at Pioneer today. Typically Monday and Wednesdays I'm at Pioneer, and Tuesdays and Thursdays I'm at M&M, and Fridays I'm running around everywhere. But I still like it's even though my body is here, I'm still very engaged, and I have a fantastic team. I have fantastic teams, plural. And so I'm extremely grateful for that. So leading in this industry, whether it's the precision machining or the precision grinding, is extremely rewarding.
And I will also say I can tell just by the content and the way that you show up online, you have great teams and you are also a great leader. So I just want to acknowledge you there because of the voice and coming from a women's perspective, right? There's not a whole lot of women in leadership roles and definitely not a CEO that's running two sides of this. So that's huge to also, just I want to acknowledge you for that. And also like what are some things that with women in leadership, what are some things that you would tell them?
So yeah, for me, it's let's just eliminate the women and just become a leader, right? What is good leadership qualities? What are attributes that we need to become good leaders? We're women, our perspectives are going to be as women, but if you were to put, five women in the room, you would have five different opinions. And so just because we're women doesn't limit us or not allow us to have the same mindset, strategy, pains, challenges, successes as our, male colleagues. But as women, we're wired differently, obviously. I feel like empathy comes a little bit easier for us. We're nurturers. We're wired to be mothers, and mothers are nurturers. And so that being said, to be completely honest, women, there's no reason why we cannot be successful. Like my mother came to this country in 1969, and when the factories were dark, dirty, grimy, when sexual harassment and racism weren't anything anybody was talking about. And she's a successful business owner today. And so if she came with her limited English, with no education, because she came from a small village from Yemen and was not educated, and she came here, learned how to drive, learned how to run a machine, became an entrepreneur alongside with my father, and became successful. Like, what's my excuse? Like, what am I gonna say? Like, I couldn't do it, I couldn't make it. This is a land of opportunity. We are in America, and there's no reason why we can't be successful. Are we going to find challenges? Yeah, everyone goes through adversity. And so our adversities might look different than someone else's, but it doesn't take away from the challenges that everyone is facing every day. So
Yeah.
I think the victim mindset, not that women are wired that way, but because it's a challenge, we kind of like, that's kind of like, oh my God, I can't do it because I'm a woman. Or, oh my God, I'm the only one in the room. So what? Make that stand. Don't look at it as a disability. Look at it as something that you bring, tell my children building. And when you talk to someone, be the most humble person who can be in your way.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful. One of the things that I want to kind of go back to is the adversity and the victim mindset. My question was, as a leader, when you are faced with adversity, what are some things you do to overcome that?
Well, it depends on what it is, but I am a big believer in my faith. And but doesn't really matter, karma maybe. So whatever your belief system, every challenge comes ease. Like there's going to be an ending point to the challenge that you're facing, and using that opportunity that while you're facing and overcoming a challenge from this, where's the silver? Looking at it as an opportunity worth, is it worth this much of my energy? Because many, not that big of a deal. And many people say, if you ask yourself in 3 months the mindset to be in, is it heavy? Dissecting the problem and being able to, whether it's you that have to take it head on, or delegate or bring your team members in to collaborate and see how can we solve this together. So it really depends on the challenges. We have challenges at home. One thing that we're going to have a challenge, but like, is that going to break me? No, that's not going to break me. And it's also, if it's a challenge, so on the flip side, what does success look like? And is that achievable? And if it is achievable, what's that roadmap? Like really just dumbing it down in my head. Like, okay, like this is a problem. What would make this right? And how can I make, and so when you kind of think of it that way and try, and it's hard because we're emotional beings, and I'm for one passionate about the industry, my people, my company, my family. I'm very just about anything. If I'm not passionate about it, I'm not going to be part of it. And so be out, and then just try to being very, allowing it to make you feel heavy. Does that make sense?
It does. Yes, it does. I love how you said, we get to have our emotions, and at the same time, we also get to pull ourselves out of it. I really like your perspective of when we're faced with challenges, we get to have like our emotions and our feelings, and at the same time, we can pull ourselves out of it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like allowing that space, and then, okay, now we can, move on and not making it this huge problem that it may not be.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it comes to goal setting, KPIs, I would love to hear your perspective. How do you do this for your team?
We do it as a team. So it's very important that as leaders, CEOs, owners, entrepreneurs, that we don't come up with the numbers by ourselves. It's got to be like, let's just say, our 2025 sales strategy. That wasn't just me writing it. It was me, the sales team, upper management, the budgeting. It's not just me. It can't just be me. If I want to be successful and I want it to be sustainable, it has to be more than just what I want. And sometimes what's in my head isn't realistic. And I want to make sure that I'm fair to the team and that they're achievable goals. They're goals that we have to work towards, but they're achievable goals. So coming up with that isn't difficult. You can come up with it by yourself, but coming up with that with the team and getting the engagement of the team, and then the execution of it. It's not just, it's one thing we can come up with KPIs and say, these are the metrics, this is what we want. And then every month not hit the numbers, and then the morale, just like, it makes everybody miserable. And so that's not success. Me thinking we're going to hit numbers that aren't achievable for whatever reason is not, that wouldn't be the right way of doing it. But me bringing the team members in, and even in my one-on-ones or any projects that we're working on, I never give them a deadline unless I absolutely have to, and there's something pressing that I have to set a deadline. But if we're working on continuous improvement initiatives or projects that I want to work on, or I had an idea and I want you to take the lead on this, I ask them to review, we talk about it, what resources they need, how can I help? And then when it goes on their task list, they have two dates, their due date and then their drop dead due date. And so those are their dates. And their drop dead due date is basically, you're going to move heaven and earth to meet that date. And unless something crazy happens, like let's just say that we get audited or something like that, of course, I'm not going to expect my director of quality to handle tasks that are due this week if we have a customer wanting to audit our system. So he's going to put his energy there. But those are like the exceptions to the rule. But overall, that's the dates that they come up with, and they have to be fair, reasonable, and then they are held accountable to that.
And I love that approach in so many different ways of like one, creating it as a team, two, they are the ones that are picking those dates because it
Yes.
gives them that accountability. It gives them that kind of their ownership that this is the date, and to also have that flexibility, which I think is huge
Yes,
to be able to
absolutely.
do that.
Absolutely. And I also feel like, it's not just getting their engagement, but it's their pride, right? They're going to be
Yeah.
very prideful, but there are times that if I'm working on a project, like I'm going to go visit a customer next week, or I'm going to be on a board and I need, if I'm on a board and I know the board meeting is at a date, then what I do is, what do we need to shuffle from your list so you can make this deadline that I need you to make? So I'm sensitive to what else is on their list. So that's when we relook and reorganize what's priority, what's the priority right now. And I think, in any business, especially manufacturing, it's very fast paced. So things could change right now. And so those tasks that we were talking about, those work instructions that I needed you to write, well, that's not a priority right now. Because right now we need to execute this order. We need to go visit this customer. We need to make sure that we're addressing this issue. We need to go visit the supplier. Like if there's something that is, like going to take us to the next step as far as our growth, or an opportunity that comes up that may not come up all the time, then you have to make exceptions.
Yeah, and I think that's huge because you kind of go back like what is priority and kind of, shifting those things around. And yes, manufacturing is ever evolving and changes like that in a heartbeat. And you never know. I always used to joke, if you want to learn how to navigate change and navigate change at a fast pace, just go into the manufacturing industry because it's constantly changing. It's constantly changing.
Well, I realize that when I talk to people that aren't in manufacturing. It's kind of like we're cut from a different cloth. No disrespect to other people in different industries. And, like obviously doctors and nurses, they're the exception, right? But like any other industry, understanding cycle time, understanding processes, understanding efficiency, understanding continuous improvement, like that's like literally day in and day out, like your mind is thinking workforce development, like no matter your position, you don't have to be the CEO to think about these things. It's just anyone in manufacturing, like how can I make this faster, how can I make this better, how can I improve the quality, how can I make the cost come down, like it's just like you
Yeah.
know it's
And
a it's a constant.
Yeah, and it's definitely a culture. And it's interesting because when I went from the manufacturing industry into software, it was kind of a culture shock for me. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know how to do process improvements? And everyone just looked at me like, and I was like no root cause analysis, no gap analysis, no lean manufacturing tools in this industry. I love that. So when it comes to your team, what are some things as a leader that you enjoy developing with your team? Like as far as developing their growth.
I love that question because it's ironic. Today, we had a follow-up meeting about some leadership training that we offered some of our shop employees and some of our office employees. We had them take leadership training together, and they finished it a few weeks back. And we wanted them to kind of like settle and just like absorb what they learned. And today, the president and myself and the controller, the three of us are in the room, and we're just like literally listening to them and how much they've learned, and then what was like some of the takeaways, and then what would you do differently, like if you were to go back, what would you do differently as far as that training? What would you want? And some of them were like, we would want more time in that training. Like it was a lot of information, it was fast. Someone said we would have wanted you guys to be in the classroom with us in the beginning, because we would want your feedback. And is this really like, does this make sense to you? And so it was just like different feedback from different people, and that in itself, just seeing them have the confidence to talk about what they've learned and how they're going to implement it. And it's about team building and how when they face issues on the shop floor or with their teammates, like how do they address it. And it was just extremely rewarding to see that that resource was available. I provided it for them, and they took advantage of it, and and the takeaways from that was just, it's phenomenal. And I always say, I always say that what you're learning today, I hope that you're here for many years, but what you're learning is you're going to take it with you for the rest of your life. So take advantage of this, not only because the benefit of that the company would benefit, but also for your own personal development. And so when you phrase it that way, like they obviously are like, is she letting me go? Like, if they don't trust me, right? If they don't know me, or they think, oh, wow, she anticipates that one day I might not be here. It's, I've been in this role for 31 years. People have come and gone, and it's sometimes unfortunate and sometimes it's fortunate, but it's the reality of life. And so while you're here, tap into the resources we're providing you so you can do your job better. And so this morning I had a one-on-one with one of my sales engineers, and same concept. They're very technical, but they're still learning on the sales end. And I'm providing them resources and giving them like even like Instagram links, like watch this, look at this, and being able to like really just, and again, this is Generation X and Generation Z and millennials, so they kind of have that grasp of social media more than maybe my Generation X or even baby boomers. So use what they like, like use the tools that that they'll engage with. If I give them a book and I'm like, read this book and you'll learn so much, they might read it. It might happen. But if I'm sending him a 2-minute video on Instagram and it's really powerful, and that might open up conversations on our next one-on-one, it's not going to give him all the training he needs, but it'll open his eyes to a perspective that he might not have. And so those are the moments that I feel great. And then also like I don't sit in, I used to be in almost every meeting. And then last year, 2024, I made a conscious decision not to be in meetings unless I absolutely have to be. Or if somebody actually invites me to come because they need me there. Because I want my team to be able to speak to each other, to collaborate, to, and not feel like, okay, she's here, I got to be on my best behavior. I will limit their ability to speak freely. I know that, and that's the reality of life. It doesn't hurt my feelings. because I know as the CEO and as the owner, I'm not going to be their buddy. I'm not going to be their best friend. That's just impossible. I sometimes want to be, and I'm like, I'm okay with being friends with my employees, but I'm still the owner, and I have to respect that there's boundaries. And sometimes if they're not setting those boundaries, I have to allow them to like just go and set it for them, really.
Yeah. And I think that's so powerful. And also with the all the generations that are coming into the workplace, I just want to emphasize this for the leaders that are listening to this is really learning the different generations. We see this a lot where leaders aren't adapting to the new generations coming in. And I've even seen this the way my boys learn, right? They're 15 and 17. So they learn very much social media. Like send me a YouTube link and I'll learn, but I don't want to go watch that, listen to that book or read that book, but I can learn really quick on YouTube. So I think that's very powerful. And shout out to you for understanding that and understanding these gaps that, we do have.
Yeah,
And
I was at an event, several events, and I had my engineers with me, and one is a millennial, and two were Generation Z. And we were at an event, actually a national event out of state, and then again one local. And both events, they were bashing their generation, and I got up and I defended them. And like, do we have challenges with the newer generations? Absolutely, because we're still figuring it out. Are they wired differently? Yes, but there's also advantages to them. And so if you're not understanding, like you said, understanding what their challenges are and what their strengths are, and you don't ever want to label anyone, but like overall, like just saying, okay, this is consistent with, you know, employees at this generation, like then why wouldn't you want to accommodate that so you can get their engagement? It's really finding the ROI of doing the right thing.
yeah.
It's not brain surgery.
And I think that's the thing is not putting a label, but like how can we utilize their strengths and their, what are their challenges and what are their strengths, and then bringing that together as a leader. And I think great leaders understand that and get that, and they don't have those challenges as much as like, well, we've always done it this way, not having that mindset of we've always done it this way.
Yeah.
So that's
Well, then
huge.
you're not able to innovate if you're thinking that, and you're going to be left behind. And believe me, I back in when I was in my 30s, I know firsthand. I was fine with how things were, and I didn't want to ruffle feathers, and we're good. We no change. But as want to be competitive and grow and have that mindset, and stay in business and be relevant, you have to. And to do that, you need all generations. You need everyone's input.
Yeah. And that's the competitive edge, right? All the innovation that comes together.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think that age is part of that diversity factor, right? So you have all these different age, so it's all these different backgrounds, all these different education levels, all of that, and you bring them to the team, and now you have all these different perspectives that will bring you these types of innovation. And that's what, I always used to say, like, innovation is championed through diversity. Like if you're not diverse, then and everyone on your team looks like you and comes from the same background as you, whether it's age, ethnicity, education, female, whatever. It brings different perspectives, and those different perspectives is how you're able to make really good decisions and innovate.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I also think that it allows everyone to think outside the box and have a different opinion and different perception. I would be curious to hear from your viewpoint when you bring everyone different, everyone together and they've all got their opinions and they're all, this diverse group. How do you manage all the differences?
Well, I think respect is like, number one. There, no matter what, like there's always, even within the same generation, or if there isn't diversity, if you bring in people, they're always going to have a difference of opinion. But having that level of respect to listen to that perspective, and even if you don't agree, whoever the decision maker is or whoever's facilitating the meeting, will set those boundaries that everyone has to be heard. And so, and that everyone should feel comfortable in speaking up and giving their opinion. So I've had toxic employees that I've had to fire because of reasons like that, but it's not something that I handle. It's something that I don't tolerate. It's unacceptable.
That's the standard, which is amazing. That's the
Yeah,
standard. Yeah,
yeah.
I love that.
Believe me, I read somewhere, fire your high performing toxic employees. And I've done that many times. And people think I'm crazy sometimes, even within my company. Like, who's gonna do that job now? We'll figure it out. I'd much rather take a hit, an economical hit, than a hit to my values. And so that's just unacceptable. And so obviously you try to warn and guide and mentor and set those expectations and make them crystal clear. But unfortunately, there are just some people that just ignore that and think that they're above the law or feel like they're going to get away with it for whatever reason. And when it's shown consistently, then it's my job to make sure that that is removed because it's either going to bring down the morale, which it will, but even worse, it's going to make others feel like, what, why am I doing what I'm doing? And I always say that our core values, they're not just content for our website or pretty words on a wall. They mean something. And if they apply to me, they apply to everyone.
Mm. That part, that last part, the core values aren't just on a wall. They actually mean something, which
Yeah.
is huge because a lot of companies don't back up their core values or, use those as guiding principles.
Yeah, no, they have to be. Otherwise, the one thing that I don't want to ever be is a hypocrite. And so I can't. I'm wired in a way that, obviously you want to show people grace and, there's obviously sometimes we're under stress and some people lose it every once in a while, and that's understandable. And we as a team have to be compassionate if someone's having a bad day or something, they're stressed about something, or they have a personality trait that they're not the most social person in the room. Those are things that we have to just adapt to and show people grace. But then when it's boldly just disrespect, yeah, that's not
Yeah.
happening. No.
Switching a little bit to so this is an interesting topic. I read it in the Forbes where I think 2025, one of the biggest focus was focusing on being a more holistic from a human aspect, and mental health is should be one of the top things that you're focusing on in your business and in your company. I would love to hear your perspective on mental health. How do you focus on it? And how has it supported you in your business?
Yeah, well, that's always been something that has been, I would say, something that we've always addressed. And part of the way that we've addressed it is chaplain service. We have a chaplain service, and because of, I'm obviously, again, Muslim faith, but most of my team is Christian. And because of that, we hired a Christian chaplain service, I would say about 10 years ago. And so a male and a female, one, each of them come every other week. So every week we have a chaplain. And being able to, like, just recently we had one of our employees' father passed away. And I was walking the shop floor. In the corner of my eye, I saw her talking to the chaplain, which I was happy to hear and see, because just being able to tap into that resource is important. And so that's one way. And I feel like, seeing people struggle, like, especially if they're, so each of us have our people that report to us and have one-on-ones. And I have about, I would say currently, it's going to get less because I just promoted someone as president, but currently I have 4 people that I have one-on-ones with. And in those one-on-ones, that's when you really are able to, like, just put everything down. I'm a resource to you. How can I serve you? Like, what is it that you need? And then also, like, what are the updates? And it's more of the employee telling me what they need versus me asking for updates, although sometimes obviously that will come up. But if something is off, and that has happened, what are you going through and how can I support you? I have an employee that has someone in their family that's literally going through cancer, and every day it's just getting worse and worse and worse. So her hours are very flexible. We've extended, her PTO. We pay it forward. We know, we hope that she's going to be here for a while, but we're making a little bit of exceptions to the rule to make sure that they feel supported. Does everyone come to me when they're, things that they're facing, challenging moments? No, but the resources are there when, if they need to. And I have an open door policy, and that includes everyone from the janitor to the president can come through. I have my door locked now because it's a podcast. But other than that, I have an open door policy. And unless I'm in a meeting, you just come right in and you want to vent, you want to talk to me, something not right, something's not aligning with our values. I'm here. And I try to be, and I try to at the very least be a sounding board. Do I take action? Definitely. And mental health, I feel like isn't just something that we should be watching for our employees, but for ourselves. When I'm exhausted, when I feel like, things are just overwhelming, then am I taking it out on my team? Am I coming in like very exhausted, just really down, depressed? Is my anxiety showing? Is my, like, am I being negative? Am I not being a positive person? So those are things that not only are we should be watching on our team, but ourselves. And as leaders, lead by example, and lead by example that, yeah, I'm going through some crap right now at home, or I'm going through some, hard times, but then I need to find areas where I can vent and I can make sure that I'm taking care of myself so I can be the best version of myself for my team, because not everybody's going to care and not everybody has time, and the company should not, it should not be at the expense of the company if I'm going through something difficult. Things still need to be moving forward. And so those are things that come to mind with that question.
Thank you. I love just how you said allowing the flexibility. And that's huge because what I see, just from listening is they're being seen, heard, respected, and having that space. And also that space just to be, right? That's so huge for humans, for any part of your life, is just, having a space that you can go and just be, which is amazing. So we're kind of at the end here, and I'm going to ask some rapid fire questions. The first thing that pops into your minds, and there's no right or wrong answer. It's just kind of some rapid fire rounds. And
For the record, I did not see any of these questions prior to this. Just for the record.
that is correct. She has no idea.
And I love that. I honestly, I don't know whether about the rapid questions, but I love, like, it makes it more authentic. Like we talked about this,
Yeah.
more authentic, and I never want to sound robotic or anything like that. So I welcome that. And even other podcasts and interviews that I've done in the past, like even if they do send me questions, I don't overthink them. I just take a glance and then just move on, because the one question might turn into 10 other questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So are you ready for your rapid fire questions? Okay. Let's start with, what's your favorite book?
Oh, Simon Sinek, why? What is it called? Oh God, I can't think of it. Um, Starts with that why. It starts with why.
Okay. Are you more TV or book reading type of person?
Neither. I'm more social media. Social
Mm.
media, and I work. I'm an unapologetic workaholic. I listen to books, especially on flights and at the airport when I'm traveling. But TV, the last thing I watched was like um, American Idol, like over a year ago. Like I have not watched TV. It's just so toxic.
Mm, I like it.
Sorry, I'm sorry for those that love TV, but I'm not.
Hey, this
I've never had Netflix. I've never, my grandkids have Netflix and they have it on their phones, and but I've never, and even my son will be like, here, watch this, and I'm like, I don't have Netflix. He's like, how can you not have Netflix? You're the only person on the face of the earth. I'm like, I don't want to get addicted to movies. I don't want to get addicted to these shows. So no,
I I love that. What's the most important leadership characteristics? Just one.
empathy.
Do you like tea or do you like coffee?
Tea.
Tea.
I used to love coffee, and then I got COVID. I used to drink 3 large cups, black, with shots of espresso. My friends and employees would be like, "That's not coffee, that's tar." And then January 2022, I got COVID, and I I'll have a latte here and there, but I have no desire, even with cream, even like I don't like the fancy drinks anyway, but I'm not a fan. So I drink black and green tea.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay. That's interesting. All right. Yeah, straight black coffee here too.
Yeah.
And the last question, what is one thing that is currently lighting you up in your life?
My grandchildren,
Ah,
my 5 grandchildren. I have Nora's 18. She's at UIC, and she got into the honors roll program. Ibrahim is 17. He's graduating high school. And then I have Soraya, who just turned 6. Yaqub, that is going to turn 5 later this month. And Gamila is 9 months old. So I have bookends. I have teenager grandchildren that don't want anything to do with us. And then I have the little ones that won't leave us alone.
you got the balance.
That's, although my grandkids are like the older ones, they're amazing. They all make me so proud. But the older ones have interned here. And if you were to meet them and see them on the shop floor or in, meetings, you would never know they were my grandkids. And that's like a testament from my team every time. They're like, like my grandson, he's 17 and he does the pickups and deliveries, either after school or during summer. And my granddaughter will do like marketing stuff and like data entry and stuff like that, just like tedious work, and they do it happily, like they have no issue. And they've learned so much. Like my 17-year-old grandson, now he wants to go into engineering, and he knows so much about our processes, our machining, our inspection process. Even like some of the vendors that he drops off parts to adore him. Like I met someone the other day, one of my suppliers, and they're like, "Are you related to Ibrahim?" I'm like, "He's related to me." But obviously it makes me so proud, that he's very charismatic and that people like him.
Yeah, and that's also really incredible to see how the generations, you're also pouring into them, and then, as they grow, it just this company is going to stay in the generations too, and
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
incredible.
I want them to find their own path. I don't want them to feel like they're my
Mhm.
succession plan either. Neither of my sons have been. So my grandkids I will allow them to find their own path. I'm 55 years old. I don't know what my succession plan is yet, but I'm hoping that I'm like my father who worked till he was 91. So I have a little bit of time if I'm like my father, because I am my father's daughter for sure.
You have got plenty of time.
I got a little.
Any last words that you would like to say to wrap this up?
Yeah, so I hope your audience enjoys this, and I just feel like no matter what industry you work in, no matter what job title, just always go in confidently. And I'm not saying fake it till you make it, but just the self-talk and making sure that you take care of yourself and your mindset, and nothing is impossible.
Mm, thank you.